Jake and Abby, I just wanted to thank you both for taking some time to sit down with me in the midst of this Love Your Neighbor series, and we're going to kind of dive into a specific area and maybe a way that we can do that, and that is finances. And so we're going to kind of hit a time in your life when God maybe changed your thinking a little bit. Would you mind just telling me a little bit back when you first got married? What was your kind of mindset when it came to money?
I would say we didn't know that you could actually cook in your house.
Sure.
We would go places and it turns out they will give you food. Granted, that's more expensive and that's just really not the most financially responsible way of eating.
Sure.
Yeah, we just kind of did whatever floated our boat, and we went out to eat all the time, and we hung out with friends all the time, and we'd go on trips and we'd go shop, and we just didn't really worry about it. It just seemed, it was like what everyone else was doing. We bought a car pretty quickly after. We didn't need a new car. That car was totally fine, but we bought a new car, and that was just what we were supposed to do. Yeah. That's what we enjoyed doing.
Living kind of the American dream, buy what you want, and if it's what you want and you can afford the minimum payments, you're good to go.
Definitely, we spent more than we probably had, and it's kind of evident later on, but at that point in time we didn't really think about it and it just kind of went along.
Sure. But now you're here, you're at Abundant Life, and also we dive into this series that we had called Keep the Change. And so something in the midst of that triggered a change in a thought for you as it came to your finances. So what was that? What was kind of maybe the aha moment that, hey, something needs to change?
Definitely, I kind of went oblivious to it for a while, but Abby brought it up to me like immediately after that sermon, and kind of, we started working from there. I was probably a little not on board as much, because of just how I thought about it, but we worked through it and kind of started on that path.
Yeah, I remember sitting in that sermon series and thinking about, oh, yep, I agree with everything he's saying, that makes sense. And then it was like, well, how practical is that really for us? And like you said, we were in the car on the way home, and I started asking, how much is on that credit card and how much is on this credit card? We realized that we didn't even know how much debt we had. And so I think when we sat down, probably later which we weren't completely on board that we wanted to do it, so it may have taken a couple days to actually sit down and look at the numbers. And I think we were pretty blown away with what we were faced with.
Yeah, so you're staring at this kind of wall of debt that maybe you didn't even realize that you had. And I think there are people that sit and they think, yeah, well, I have a lot of debt too, but it's an insurmountable amount. I'm just gonna have to do my thing. What were some just things that you all did to kind of take this thing down, if you will?
Well, we started off with an Excel sheet, built out the full budget. That way, it allowed us to actually see what our debt figures were, what our income was, and all, those different expenses we had each month. And that's probably one of the first little things we did. We definitely made some big jumps. I traded in my truck, and
Sorry, man.
I know it hurt. It hurt, and it was getting there was probably harder than even getting on the budget train. But we did that and kind of traded in for a used car. It's still got a solid vehicle, but that's a huge debt reduction there.
How do you feel now, being debt-free? How has it allowed you to, I guess you could say in the midst of the series, love your neighbor and to use that to kind of point them back to who Jesus is?
We've always been huge proponents of tithing, and even before we kind of went on our debt journey, that was still a thing we did. But I think there's a better mentality of it now. It's not well, I'm giving this money up, but I could be spending this on debt. It's, this is just one more opportunity for us to further God's kingdom through our tithes, through our offerings. If we want to support someone to go on a mission trip, or we want to pay for someone to go to 1 week for Fusion. It's just all those different abilities that we now have without even batting an eye.
Real quick, if you're looking out to people watching this video now, wondering, oh my gosh, it sounds so nice, but it sounds so impossible, what would just be a quick little bit of encouragement that you'd give to someone who's ready to potentially tackle their debt?
It is doable. It doesn't matter if it's going to take you 10 years and you've got $100,000, $250,000 of debt.
Yeah.
God is very clear in His Word, lining out what we should do with our money and how we should spend our money and give our money and save our money. This is very clearly what God wants for us, is to have that financial freedom, and it's freeing to know that you're doing the right thing, and God will bless that obedience as well. And there were so many times during this journey that God showed up in little ways, and it really allowed us to more intimately depend on Him through this by changing our perspective. I mean, and it is definitely doable.
Thank you guys so much just for sitting down with us today, sharing your story, because in the end, that's what this is all about, and watching what God can do in and through people as we look to further advance His kingdom. So thank you both.
Thank you.